Good Saturday morning. We are live from Lakeside once again, Eddie. We've had a long couple days here, my friend.
We have. I mean, and it's been gorgeous weather. What can you say? Beautiful Saturday. Alabama Stakes later on today. Do want to give a couple of shout outs to some people from all the fun we've had this week. Uh, Bremont, Pete, and the people at Stable Duel. I'm repping you guys this morning. Also, my boys at Naira Bets, using your pen. It's been good luck for the last 2 weeks. So hope to keep the winning going. And also a special thank you and shout out to Seth Merrow, Capital TB, and Racing Across America. We were on their show yesterday morning. Hope you guys had a chance to listen in. It was a real treat. And Chris, we had a good time on that show.
Absolutely. No, thank you again to Seth and Capital OTB for having us on yesterday. Hoping we did a pretty good job and explaining what our pace sheets are all about and what's happening. And that's the goal here this morning. We're gonna talk about the card, but just a couple things, Eddie, before we get into that piece of it and what the card is. Just wanted to make sure we were clear on the couple races. So what on the show yesterday, if I can get this to come up here. On the show yesterday, this is one of the races that he pulled up. And again, it was chalky. We know that. It's the Whitney. But the point I want to make here, and again, I've been calling it corner horses. So when you look at the top right, horses with the best early speed and the horses with the best total pace, they win more than their fair share of these races. And that was what I was going at here. And when I looked at Life is Good and the Whitney, and there's been some examples. They don't happen a lot, but usually I can find one or two every couple days. It's
And that's a great point because you know right here the graph, the data is showing you and telling you that the six with the large bubble and the spacing over on the total pace square on the left, and then you see the total pace on the right with the four Olympiad behind it, and then you have uh early speed the six horse. And we tried to beat the six. I think we both picked the Olympiad, and the Olympiad was coming in off a 4 or 5 race winning streak. And sometimes, listen, trying to beat the favorite, if you've got substance behind it, go at it. But in this case, I think Life is Good proved to be much the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one I was going to show here, Eddie, is this is the other one we showed in the show, and I've got examples from other days too. But when you take this data, different people can look at this and come to probably some different conclusions depending on how their opinion is when they're handicapping and what they know about it. I get excited about pace, how the setup looks, what's happening, and I may look at this differently than somebody else may comprehend. And this was the other race. This is that bomb that I think the exact that was like 300 and something dollars from last Saturday, the last race. And then
Right.
we've been pretty lucky that actually the last race.
The last race of the card has been good to us for sure.
I,
So let me preempt this with a couple of questions for you. So hopefully the way I look at this, and I've learned to understand it, and hopefully Chris can kind of walk you through in understanding this. Looking at total pace in this, I see the 3 with the letter M next to it in a big blue bubble. Then you got the 4 with the V next to it, which I know that stands for versatile. Then you got a small 9 blue, light blue with the 9C, the 7C's up there, but then you got the 1 big
Mhm.
blue, red number on the bottom left. So let's talk through each one and make sure our viewers understand.
Yeah, so again, we've hit on this. So let me just start with the bubble sizes. So the bubble sizes are based on algorithms. Again, it's a computer pulling stuff. Who's the trainer? What's their percentages? Who's the jockey? Is the horse shipping? Is the horse dropping in class? Some of that stuff, and that's what's going to lead to your bubble sizes. That's not to say that the horse with the biggest bubble size is always going to win. It's just saying that, hey, you've got some angles here. I would just look at the horse a little closer. Now, the example I'm looking at of the one here in this race, one has, based on the information, has no early pace and has the worst total pace. So I'm not really sure. I guess I'd have to look at some situations. I would, if that horse is going to the turf the first time or something like that, maybe it would make me look at that horse, take a second look at it. But the call out here And again, and I don't, this is on a screen, so I'm going to show a couple here on the iPad where I can actually draw and I can show what's going on. But the piece here is this doesn't happen all the time. If it did, I would live at the track and I'd probably turn my notice in for my job, and me and Eddie would be sitting up in the box just making bets every day. But I can tell you with certainty that when you go back and you look at it, you'd be surprised how many times the total pace number actually has the winners at the front. And I'm looking for gaps, but this is just one of those races that, the 3 was probably the favorite. I didn't go back and look at it, but the 3 made sense. So if you tried to sell me on the 3, I'd be like, okay, I can live with that. But you look at the 7, 9, and the 4, and those were all the bombs on the board. Just look at that total pace number, where it takes you, and especially where you got some speed in the race. If you look at the left-hand side, you'll see the pace pressure. Now, I did make some tweaks to this. So this says 32. Typically over 21 is when the pace starts shifting to the pressers. So I'm not going to get too far off the rails here, but that's where you want to look at who is the late speed in the race. And something we were talking about yesterday, Eddie, is this is really important, that when you look at late speed has a lot of challenges getting through, because if you have a big field, it's hard for the late speed horse to get through traffic sometimes. But I will tell you this, if you can pick out a late speed horse that you like, you will find that that late speed horse, a lot of times with the best late speed or at the top, will be your second place horse. And you can really build some exactas that way.
Yeah, we've hit some nice exactas using that strategy, very much so.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk.
So in this
okay.
race, who ended up winning this race again?
I think it was the 9. And the reason it was the 9, and I know that because I had a win bet on the 9, and I think it paid like $15 for the $2 win. And then the 4 came second, and that was the exacta that was a bomb. And then it was the try. So the 7, who was the closer here, by the way, the 7 was the closer. So I guess it all makes sense when you look at it. It was 9, 4, 7, and it was one of those races. It was off the charts, but when you go back, you're like, holy cow! Like, it's amazing how the computer and the data and all that stuff gets picked up.
And before we leave this screen, one last question. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the size of the bubble, so and what goes into it in our algorithm, but explain why the 9 is such a small bubble on the total pace versus where the 3 and the 4 are a little bit larger.
Again, it's all based on what the percentages are, changes, angles, everything else. So again, if I just look at it straight from a standpoint of total pace, I love the 9.
Right.
But if I need to go back and compare it, and I was looking at the 4, I would say, without cracking a PP, that I would fall more in love with a 4, just because his bubble's bigger.
Right.
And they look like they're about the same. That's where I would shift, but that's where the handicapping comes in, and you have to go in and say, okay, my opinion is, and then again, I played the 9 that race. Luckily I won, but
I ended up boxing the 4, 7, and 9 primarily because I like the 7 the most in the race, but because of spot sheets and the algorithms, I used the 4 and the 9 as well, and fortunately ended the day on a high note.
Absolutely. We got a question here from the crowd. You ready?
Sure.
Walter asks, so the bigger the bubble means the algorithm leans towards favoring that horse regardless of pace. That is correct.
That is correct. Yeah, I would say so as well.
That is correct. So yep, absolutely. So why don't we get into let me get this screen off here. Ready? Why don't we get into the card here? And I'm going to ask you what's the race you want to talk about? What do you like here today?
Well, we're obviously going to, we've been on 2 other podcasts or shows this week already, and gone over the Alabama card with a couple of people. We will go over the big races in the Alabama, but we're going to do it in a very quick, short fashion. But today's concept of what I'm trying to do and what Chris and I are trying to do is to go over a couple of races and show where the spot sheets, where the algorithm can help you and incorporate it into your handicapping. Now, remember, this is a tool. This isn't, the word of God here. You use it, incorporate it with your handicap as a tool, as, something that maybe helps you look at a horse that you didn't have. And together with your handicapping, you can hit some nice winners there. So in the first race I want to look at is, let's look at the very first race today.
Mm-hmm.
it's a maiden claiming race, which usually may not be that appealing to me, but it's for 3-year-olds and up. And the thing about this race is you got some horses that have run a few times. The spot sheets will show that. You also have some horses that ran a maiden special weight and that were highly thought of. They paid some decent money for. They just haven't won yet. So, in looking at this race, there's a couple of horses that I want to talk about. Uh, you've got the 3 horse who's a first time starter. So, first time starter starting at $40,000 in a maiden claiming race. Maybe not something I'm going to look at unless I see huge workouts, and I don't see the big workouts on this horse. I see a couple of nice ones, but tough for me to use that horse, even though it's my friend George Weaver is the trainer on it. Uh, the 4 horse may go off to be the favorite. Uh, Talking about the algorithm, I'm curious to see what spot sheet shows on this, but Rudy Rodriguez, who's a really good guy, a really good trainer, is just having a really tough, unlucky meet so far. I think he's something like 1 for 60. So it's a pretty tough go on him. And then looking at this, I kind of like the 6 horse a little bit. Street Vendor. Uh, he's been favored 3 of the 5 races, and he's been low odds every race. Had some hard luck in some of the racing as far as traffic and things. 2 seconds out of 5 starts. The interesting thing is Saez leaves the 6 to ride the 4, and Irad jumps on the 6 for Todd Pletcher. That's usually a really good combination. So in this race, I would land on the 6, and I probably use the 7 a little bit. First time out for Robertino Diodoro has Ricardo Santana on, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this horse maybe go to the lead. There's not a ton of pace in this, speed in this, and he's had some really nice work since Diodoro claimed him. So I'm probably using 6-7 on this. So what's the sheet say?
Yeah, and just before I jump over to the sheets, I just wanted the Rudy Rod, and I just pulled this morning. So he's actually 1 for 55.
Wow.
1 for 55, 2%. That's ugly, Eddie.
And and he's he's a very good established trainer.
Okay, so first off, on the maiden front, those of you that are watching this, those of you that are going to come back and watch this later, because I want to make sure everybody understands this is a computer. It's pulling it. The more data we have, the better off this information is going to be. So when you look at the pace and what I do have for information, and I know there's some things here with Theodoro having the first off a claim. I know he's pretty good first off a claim. And then I think isn't there a couple firsters here too, Eddie?
There is the 3 horse, I think, is the first.
So that's why the 3 horse doesn't show up on the sheet.
Exactly.
So
and then the 5 horse only has one race to its credit.
All right. So when I handicapped this morning and I looked at it, I am actually 647 here. That's how I am. So I go over to this and I look at it. Now I'm going to tell you that based on just information, we were talking about that corner horse and everything going on.
Yep.
I see the 4 horse here on paper. That looks pretty good to me. It's a versatile horse, so it can come from off the pace or it can own the front end. There's 1's early speed, so they're probably going to be going to the front, but the 4 owns the best total pace, the best early speed. Let me see if I can just blow this up a little bit. Total pace, early speed, and they have the best late speed. So I'm just saying on paper, without cracking a PP, the 4 looks pretty good here on paper. Now, I like the 6. But with the way I would handle this, I'm not tossing the 6 just because this sheet says, hey, I got the 4.
Right.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, how do I include the 4? How do I use the 6? How do I use that? And then maybe because the fact that, and I told you I like the 7, but now that I look at this, maybe I won't put the 7 on top now. Maybe I'll just do the 4 and the 6.
Yeah. And, this is where ticket structure means so much. You don't want to take like the 4, 6, and 7 and box them, because you're probably looking at the 3 short prices in the race. And I probably put the 4 horse in the winner circle, since I said I wasn't going to use him because of Rudy. And now looking at spot sheets, it's going to make me think. And just so you guys know, I handicapped this race without looking at the spot sheets. I give that to Chris to handle, and he always makes me think outside the box a little bit. And I may even include the one if you're looking for a price in this race, just based on, the statistics. Again, as Chris alluded to earlier in the show, the spot sheets can throw a price out there to come second in exactas, and the one might be that horse here. But I'm still gonna look at this a little bit more. I said I like the 6-7. The 4 obviously fits. He's dropping from 75,000 maiden to 40,000. Obviously, he's proven to be a solid horse, but you know, got to look for value in races like this. That's what I try to do.
Yeah, and I just, from a handicapping standpoint, I always look at, the 4 has already raced the distance, didn't win. I guess the 6 is 0 for 5 with 2 seconds. So it's a toss up for me, Eddie. I don't know. I don't know if Todd Pletcher's given Louis the boot. I think he's confident in the horse, and he's probably getting Irad, who's one of his main jocks. So I don't know, but that to me, I like that. You said the 7 too. Diodoro again off a claim. I think you got to put that one in the mix too. And
Well, yeah, and one of the reasons I like the 7 a little bit is it's a second start off a long layoff from September of last year, and first time Lasix, also first time gelding. And when you look at it, his workouts have been really, really solid. And does that have to do because maybe he was, a tough mental horse, and by gelding him, he relaxed a little bit and things like that? That's an angle that I do look at. And if they let him go off at 5-1, he's going to be my play.
Yep. No, absolutely. Eddie, give me another race. You got another race you like on here?
Well, what I was going to do is before we got into the big races, I wanted to touch on 2 maiden special weight races going on at Saratoga today. I love the maiden special weight racing because to me, that makes me look at workouts of the horses, either in person or I watch them on XBTV. Also, it goes into breeding and also connections to the horses. But I love breeding. That's my specialty. That's one of my strengths. I know sire lines. I know dam lines. So in this race right here, you've got a pretty solid field. You've got 10 horses, and you got some horses that went for some good money in the sales. The one horse went for 200,000. The 2 went for the 2 was out of Into Mischief, where you have to pay 250 to get him as a sire. The 3 went for 140. I like the 4 horse in this race quite a bit. It's called Taking Candy. And why do I like the 4? Number one, he's out of Twirling Candy, who's sired by Candy Ride, one of my favorite sires, and a total proven sire, and a very strong sire in maiden horses, especially first time out. And on the dam side, it's out of Trap Shot. And you people up here in Saratoga got to remember Trap Shot. He was a special horse up here and proved to be a great sire starting out. Maybe not as much lately as he has been, but this horse is working out really good, Taking Candy. I love seeing the 5 furlong work 2 back. And also, if you go 3 back, the 4 furlong work was really strong. And then he had like a little freshener, but another solid work last out on August 14th. So I look at these workouts, I watch them, I look at the breeding. This is why I'm going on the 4 horse. I will say also the 2 horse is also out of Into Mischief and a Candy Ride Dam. So I may sprinkle that in just because of the breeding. I don't know that Joel Rosario is going to be riding him. I'm going to pray that Joel's doing okay. I know that he came down with a sickness, and hopefully it's nothing major and he'll be back with us, if not today, in the next couple of days. But just something I look at in the maiden ranks.
That's a good, really good job talking about that, Eddie. And that's actually one of my weakest points is the breeding part of it. I'm, more about the pace. I have my courses, but you've helped me guide me on some of this stuff. And I look at something like the 4 horse. I mean, that's a $400,000 purchase, man.
Yeah.
I hope he looks really good because they bred him for 60 and then turned around, and maybe I'm in the wrong business. Maybe I need to stop breeding horses.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this, but you also look at the connections here. You got Sherry DeVoe, who, if you all may not know, she used to be Chad's Brown assistant, went out on her own a few years back, and she's become a very, very good trainer on her own right, and she's got a good stable. And also the owners are Lael Stables. And if you remember Lael, they were, they came into prominence as the owners of Barbaro, who obviously is maybe my all-time favorite horse. It definitely hits the heart hard. But so that's what I look at in connections. You look at in maiden special weight races. You look at the connections. You look at the workouts, and you look at the breeding. And then obviously sometimes when I get to go in the paddock, if the horse really stands out, that just reaffirms my position. But I can also maybe add a couple other horses from the paddock view of how these maidens are looking at, if they're acting up or if they're looking calm, and if they're on their toes, is their coat shiny, and things like that.
Absolutely. Good analysis there. Anything else you want to call out from today's card?
There's another maiden race, but I'd rather get to the big races so we can kind of touch over that and not go too long on the show today.
Okay, cool. All right, let's hit some of that. So, what I did want to do, and again, this is live TV. So I have one I want to share here, Eddie. I wanted to share the third race today.
Okay.
So the third race today, when I look at it, we're talking about the bubbles. Now, again, I haven't handicapped any of this stuff. So see if I can make my pen work here.
So just so you guys know, we are the 2022 version of the Odd Couple. I'm Oscar Madison. He's Felix Unger. So he's the brains and I'm the gambling guy. So he just dumps in the data, doesn't handicap, and I handicap, and together we make a pretty good.
Well, wait a minute. I handicap too. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We'll go head to head. One of these days we're gonna do computer versus man.
All right, let's do it.
We're gonna see what happens. But what I want to show everybody is this. So this is what I need to say. This is the third race today. So again, remember what I told you about bubble sizes. So from a late speed standpoint, again, the pace looks like it's going to be honest. So let's remember that. Let's blow this up a little bit more. But when I was talking about that corner horse, again, I haven't looked at anything, so I don't know what the deal is with this 4-horse. But I'm intrigued here because this one lights up the corner and there's a gap here between the rest of the field. So I don't know how good this one is, Eddie. I don't know if this one's a single. I don't know if, the 6 is the same pace type, but I'm going to tell you that regardless of who I pick, I'm going to be looking at the 4 in this race and see how it shakes out. So that's one I wanted to and then the other part of it too is, listen, best total pace, best early speed. It's even got the best late speed. Who is that horse? Is that Secretariat?
I'll tell you, I looked at this race and you mentioned the 6, and again, you know me, the 6 is out of deputy minister on the damn side, so I'll probably be using the 6 a little bit, but the 4 and the 3 from a handicapping standpoint are standouts. I think the 4 is a standout in the race, in my opinion. I don't know what the odds are on these horses because I pulled the sheets before the odds come on, so I don't get influenced by the odds. I will tell you it's a great exercise for you guys if you can pull the sheets like on a Wednesday when they come out for a Saturday card. The odds are not on there. Handicap without the odds, and then maybe when the odds come out, see how your handicapping compares to the odds. And remember, the odds aren't the true tell-all of everything, because you may not know this. The people that set the track odds, the individual that does it, has to follow an algorithm that is already set. And I'm not sure if it's set by the jockey club or who sets it, but it's an algorithm that they have to follow. So sometimes they got to make a horse 20-1 when it may really be a 5 or 4-1 shot. So something to keep in mind.
All right. Maybe our algorithms will start making morning lines for the track, but I was just looking at the races. So, there's a ton of maidens today. So
there is.
Again, you got to tread with caution. This is where, we're still working on some things. Listen, if he's the maiden guy and I've got the information and data, how do I want that to look? Because the less data, the less accurate, right? And I look at race 4, looks like, I'm not even going to show it. It's pretty clustered together. The 5, if you want me to tell you, the 1 and the 5 look like, and the 10, I guess, look like some standouts. I don't know what's going on there. And again, this is all before scratches, by the way. Let me tell you about my favorite part of the day, Eddie, is when the scratches come out, I get all giddy because I can't wait to punch it into the computer, because I actually get to see the numbers all change, because now that other horse is in it, now this one's the lone speed,
right?
And the stuff all changes. So I love scratches because a lot of people just sit there and scratch the program and say, you know what? So the 2's not running. No, now I'm going to pick the 3. Well, the whole race dynamics change, and that's my favorite part about this. So I'll pull this one up today. So real quick, before we get into the picture, I'll show you another one here. Race 6 today is an allowance race. It's projected fast. So I left this stuff up here on the query. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but it's a 26. So I would look at a versatile horse, a V, or a presser. And guess who fits the bill? Right here.
I'd say the 1. Yeah.
And the 5. So I haven't this race yet, but when I look at it, total pace, it's the 5 and the 1s. Probably 1's going to get scratched, one of them. And then 5, 1, and 1. So that's what shows up to me on paper. That's what I look at. That's how I'm looking at this. I've trained my eyes to look at it. And again, remember, always train your eyes to go upwards for early pace. Use your early speed, best early speed up here. And then this way is total pace. So it's the same information that's on this side. But train your eyes to go up, early pace. And this is where we're getting some of these lone speed horses that have been winning too. There was the 7 yesterday. I don't know if it was the next to last race with Kendrick.
Yep. Kendrick got out to the front, and
that horse was on the sheets. I didn't tout it and I didn't put it out, but the 7 horse was the lone early speed. We were talking about it and we were loving it when those fractions were hitting on the board, but he went wire to wire. But that, another example.
And in this race, I'll tell you, I don't believe either of the ones are going to scratch because they're different connections.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the one is Rudy Rodriguez with Rapoli, and the 1A is Todd, also with Rapoli, but St. Elias Stables has part of that horse as well. And the 1A to me looks like a huge standout in this race.
Yep. Okay, so 1A, I mean, it makes sense on paper.
Yeah.
So we'll hit that one when we
and real quick, I do want to touch on race 7. Just I got to touch on this because again, it's another maiden special weight, and you're talking about some really classy quality horses that have either never run before or are running, have run a couple of times. I mean, you've got horses that are going for 100,000, 700,000, 500,000, some private sales, 450,000. And I think this horse went for the 7 horse, 850,000. The reason I wanted to bring this up is, again, I look at workouts, I look at breeding, and in this race, Chris, you got one of your favorites going, the 5 horse Gun Runner.
Bingo.
Again, out of Candy Ride. You look at this horse, some nice works. You can go back to July 12th at Saratoga on the training track. He ran 49-3, which was a bullet out of 10. 49-3 on the Oklahoma track is pretty darn solid. That's a pretty deep track. The times are usually slower. He came back with a couple of 5 furlong works at a minute flat. So the horse definitely looks good on paper, and also from a breeding standpoint and the connections. You got Steve Asmussen as a trainer, and I just lost my sheet. So,
that's right. Rosario.
No, I just found.
So he's probably not going to be on.
Rosario's supposed to be riding him, correct? Then you got another Candy Ride horse in the 7 horse that went for 850,000, and you got Shug with Johnny V riding for him. And one of the angles I like to look at, if you look at the workout 2 back August 8th, the horse ran a really solid 48-2, and then he comes back a week later and runs a little same 4 furlongs, but he ran it in 52. Is that cause for alarm? Absolutely not. To me, he had a really sharp work, and this is just getting him out, freshening him, getting his legs stretched up, because I think Shug already has him primed up, ready to go. And then the other horse I looked at in this race a lot is the 2 horse. Good News Rocket went for 700,000 out of Run Happy, which, if you've been to any track across America, there's Run Happy signs everywhere. They've been fantastic in sponsoring horse racing and done so good for horse racing. And the connections, you got Bill Mott with Frank Fletcher as the owner, and you got Bill's first call, Junior Alvarado riding for him. And this horse is working like a monster. 2 back ran 4 furlongs in 47-2, and that was 4th fastest out of 129. And then he came back a week later and ran 4 furlongs in 48-3, a second slower, still a good time, 4 out of 18. But again, to me, that's a freshener. This horse looked primed. So in this race, I'm just going to go ahead and give it out to you guys. I'm going the 2 with the 5 and the 7.
I gave you $700,000, Eddie, would you buy the run happy, or would you get the gun runner
You wouldn't see me again.
or the candy ride?
If you gave me 700, you just wouldn't see me again.
Oh, you're not going to buy a horse?
No, I'd go take off somewhere.
All right. I guess that's the answer. That's the answer.
No, I mean, gun runners are obviously proven to be a great sire coming out. For me, it'd be gun runner, not this time. Probably Curlin. I'd definitely be looking at those and Justify. Those are my four of my top five sires going right now. They're all pretty young, except for Curlin's been at it, proven to be a fantastic all-time great sire. I think he's going for like 350,000 now. So pretty solid horse.
All right. Well, we're running low on time, and I know we've already talked about these races Thursday night on the show with Eddie Olchuk, and I know yesterday we touched on something real quick just for the peeps because I've got a request to cover another race. The 8th race to Lake Placid, Eddie. Who are your selections again?
Well, again, the number one with the Moonlight, Charles Appleby. Again, he's proven that when he brings a horse over here, he's already run, I think, 2 stakes races at Saratoga this year. He's one of the world's greatest trainers right now. Luis Saez is on board. Beautifully bred horse. He had a 103 time form winning number at Bethel Park in Newmarket. The horse is a standout, but I'm going to try to beat him. The 4 consumer spending is, Chad Brown with Franco. That combination's fantastic. But I'm going with the price here, Chris. I said this in the last 2 shows. I'm going with the 8, Koala Princess. Arnold Delacour, Trevor McCarthy. Trevor McCarthy's going to hit the board. He always hits the board. I mean, I think he's something like 70% hitting the board in all his races so far up here. He's a good price play. Came 3rd in the Lake George here to the 3 and the 5 that are both running, but he was flying late. First off, flying late his last race, which was off a layoff. I think he's primed and is a really good price play.
All right. So yeah, and again, I'm on the 5.
Yeah, and you should be. I think that the 5 is the horse to beat, or the 1 is really. But
yeah, he makes sense. I mean, listen, the 1 on paper looks good, but we've talked about that. He had that quick turnaround, but I don't know. But if you look at this, I mean, this is my play. The pace looks honest. I like the 8 too, but I'm just concerned: is he going to get enough pace to get by whoever the other ones are? If you like the 1. I just don't know if the 8 has enough pace to run into. That's my only concern there. So the other one, Eddie, was the I don't even know what this was. The Smart and Fancy. Is that right? What it was?
The ninth race, yes.
The 9th race. Fancy. Do you have in that one?
So in this race, I talked about the 4, 5, and the 7. The 4 is Sarah Harper at Ron Moquette and he got Flavin Pratt to come on board. Regally bred horse. He's out of Vancouver, Medaglia de Oro with a Scat Daddy mare. He's the speed of the speed, could get loose. It's a big jockey change on this horse. His works are top shelf. I really like the 4, Sarah Harper. I'm going to use the 5. This horse has hit the board 10 times out of 14 starts on the turf with 4 firsts and 5 seconds. He's got the speed to close. He's very versatile horse. It's his 2nd race off of layoff since November. Working steady in between races. And then the 9 horse Caravel. You got Brad Cox and Saez there. Again, good, well-bred horse, Mizzen Mass, Cozine out of a Congrats Dam. He's 6 out of 13 on the turf, 5 of 9 at the distance. So I'm going with the 4 and using the 5, and Caravel, I think, is the 9 underneath.
All right. The only thing I'm going to say is get a price, because when I look at this on paper, you can pick any of these 7 horses here, could win it. None of them would surprise me. Contentious is the word. So make sure you bet value.
Yeah, and I want to clear up. I think I said 4, 5, 7. Caravel is the 9 horse, so I'm going 4 with the 5, 9.
Got you. Okay, cool. And then the big one is the Alabama. We already know who we love here.
Yeah, look. Ness has proven to be a monster. They were talking about Secret Oath as a monster. Secret Oath may be the forgotten horse in this race. He's clearly potentially the 2nd best and could be the best. Maybe he just threw a clunker last out, or
She.
she. But you know, look, Ness is out of Curlin, my deputy minister lineage. You know, this horse out of an AP Indy mare. I think this horse, if she wins like I think she's going to win today, I think she could beat the boys in the Breeders' Club. I really do. I give it a huge chance. If you're looking for a price in this race, because I mean, you got the 3 gerrymander, who's a lot of people are talking about could be the horse that could upset Nest, and you got the 7 Secret Oath, but the 2 Goddess of Fire. I remember this horse was being talked about so much earlier in her career, Chris. It's a second race off a layoff. Maybe needed that last race. She's been running in top company. It's got solid works. Wants to go longer out of an AP Indy. So first time blinkers for Pletcher and Johnny V's on board. To me, the 2's the price play if you're looking at it. If you're looking for a value, because you know that the 1, 3, and the 7 are going to be short prices. But yeah, I don't think they get Ness today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you already know how I feel about Nasty. I think you bring up a good point, though. I mean, everybody's just writing off Secret Oath. Let's not get crazy. Secret Oath is a good horse. Secret Oath, you were talking about, I know she failed against, I think it was the Arkansas Derby or something like that. And
the Arkansas Derby, she ran 3rd, and to Cyberknife, and won the Kentucky Oaks impressively, and beat Nest in that race. And then she ran in the Preakness and she ran 4th, but she didn't have the best of trips in that race. You know, she checked sharp in that race and had to go 4-5 wide. She should have easily been second in that race. But you're talking about a good horse here.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't give up on her. And I'd like to get a couple more blips on the odds board, but I could easily be influenced to come over. So last thing I'm going to wrap this up with, Eddie, is I've got oh, you know what? Shoot, I can't do it because somebody did not save the last race.
I just want you to know that someone wasn't me.
Somebody didn't change the sheets when I completed it over to PDF. But here's what I am going to do. All you guys that are watching, those of you guys that are using, again, I stress to you that if you don't understand something or need help with something, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm happy to explain something to you if I can help you with data. The goal here is not to complicate. The goal here is to just see things differently. Do your handicapping, go back, do the comparison, see what makes sense, and help you decide what races I'm going to have stronger opinions on in play and what races I have weak opinions on, and then I may be passed. That to me is the big thing. Absolutely. About horse racing is you got to figure out which one's the play, which one's the pass. Because if you're an action better just playing everything, good luck to you. Doesn't work for yours truly. And I think that's where the data really helps, comes into play. So anything else you want to talk about, Eddie?
Just going to say for everybody that's watching and listening, if you guys are at the track today up at Saratoga, we got a table up at the Terrace Club on the 2nd floor that overlooks the paddock and also overlooks the racetrack. Pop on up, give us a shout, DM us, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you in person about this and have a beer with you. So wish everybody a great race day today. Thanks, Chris, for all the information. Good stuff.
Everybody have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you guys all soon. Thank you.